Welcome back, Idiot Squared viewers. Today we have a fantastic episode in store for you. We are going to be talking about abstraction. What is it? What's it used for? When's it useful? When might it not be useful? And all the other things in between. So stay tuned, listen through to the end. That's where we distill it all. And we're going to jump straight in. We have a little bit of a Wikipedia definition to start with, and then we've got a slightly different version of that just to cover a couple of bases. So from the Wikipedia page on abstraction, it says, abstraction is a conceptual process wherein general rules and concepts are derived from the usage and classification of specific examples, literal, real, or concrete signifiers, first principles, or other methods. An abstraction is the outcome of this process, a concept that acts as a common noun for all subordinate concepts and connects any related concepts as a group, field, or category. Conceptual abstractions may be formed by filtering the information content of a concept or an observable phenomenon, selecting only those aspects which are relevant for a particular purpose. For example, abstracting a leather soccer ball to the more general idea of a ball selects only the information on general ball attributes and behavior, excluding but not eliminating the other phenomenal and cognitive characteristics of that particular ball. In a type token distinction, a type, e.g. a ball, is more abstract than its tokens, e.g. that leather soccer ball. Abstraction, in its secondary use, is a material process discussed in the themes below, which we can get onto a little bit later. So that's one way to define abstraction. Another way to think about it or define it is the following. So abstraction is a fundamental concept that allows us to manage complexity. So by reducing the information and details to focus on the higher level ideas or concepts. It's like looking at a map instead of the actual terrain. The map doesn't show every tree and rock, but it gives you the essential details to understand and navigate the landscape. Does that kind of make sense?
Sort of. I'm still kind of confused about what you said in the first definition, Guy. I wasn't really following much of that, to be completely honest. Sounds mad abstract, right? God damn. Like when I think of abstraction or abstract, I immediately think of like abstract art, which half the time it just seems like bullshit art. That's just, I don't know. Like, can you sometimes see the difference between a really expensive piece of abstract art and then like a really cheap one? Because sometimes I can't. You know what I mean? It almost seems like a bullshit field.
Yeah, I'd like to think I can. Whether or not I can or not, I don't know. But okay, so you mentioned abstract art, and I think that's a good point. Abstract art, what they're essentially trying to do is not communicate all of the fine detail, right? They're trying to just communicate enough so that you can sort of infer what it is without all of the detail. So if you look at a lot of abstract art, it might be like, an eye that is, you can tell that it's an eye, but it doesn't look like a typical eye, so to speak, or a face, right? And they might be moved around a little bit, and it's abstract. But you can still infer that there's some kind of face there, or that there's something. So it's trying to grab the concept of that. So in the Wikipedia example, they use the leather soccer ball, and then that's like quite specific because you're including the material that it's made out of. You're including the use, like for the game of soccer, and the fact that it's a ball. Whereas you could just call that thing a ball, and that would be an abstraction. You're forgetting the finer details, which is leather and soccer, which is what it is specifically used for in that circumstance, or in its purpose, so to speak. And you're just saying it's a ball. So that would be an abstraction. So we're forgetting some of the fine detail, and we're just going for that higher level concept.
It's possible that I'm thinking of a different type of art, but I remember hearing this story. I don't know how accurate it is, but basically they had a panel of professional art not not artists, but people who appraise art, I guess, and they would take them through like different abstract paintings. Or I thought it was, or at least when I heard the story, I was informed that it was abstract art, and they would have abstract pieces done by like legit artists, and then they would have other ones done by like, I don't know, 5 or 8-year-old kids. And the professional art appraisers weren't able to distinguish 100% of the time which ones were done by a professional artist in comparison to like this 5-year-old kid. So that's why I was saying that the field of abstract art seems sort of arbitrary and kind of bullshit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I can resonate with that for sure. But with the abstract art, so they might be trying to communicate a feeling, or they might be trying to provoke a certain thought. And so there's, one way to do that is you could paint a beautiful landscape, right? With, green grass and all this other stuff. And that might impart a feeling of calmness or tranquility on somebody, right? But then you could also come up with a way of doing it very abstractly. So not including any grass, not including any of those things, but it could just be like a hodgepodge of color or something else that has no real, like you can't identify anything in it specifically other than the colors or like, like general patterns, so to speak. But it could still communicate that feeling to you. And I think that's what some fantastic or great abstract art does is it elicits an emotive or a visceral experience within the viewer. So that's how I would interpret that. I think that, there is probably a good portion of art that does that. And there's probably a good portion of art that's, expensive or done by famous people that might not do that as well. Art's a very interesting place because it can often be used for moving money and doing a bunch of other things, right? So yeah, it's a bit messy and a bit murky there. But yes, so if we go back to that, the Wikipedia thing,
yeah. Sorry. Just one last thing before you go there. I think I'm thinking about a different type of art, possibly. Like I'm talking about, those pieces that sort of look like paint splatters, or it's essentially like a 5 or a 10-year-old did them. Are those pieces considered abstract art pieces, or is that a different type of art? Because I could be thinking about an entirely incorrect field of art.
I think that would come under the banner of abstract art. But it could also just be paint splattered, right? Like I think there's a is it Jackson Pollock, one of the really famous abstract artists?
Exactly. Okay, so I am thinking of the right type of art. Yeah.
But so with that, it might look random to some people the way that he would paint or do whatever. But there was a method to his madness, so to speak, or whatever. And people resonated with that art. And so for them, it was beautiful. It was all of those different things. But again, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And what can happen with a lot of this stuff is if you read the story about the art before you see the art, or you've heard about this artist and they're famous and whatever else, that can change how you interpret the art. Right? So you could read more into it, so to speak, if you know more of the backstory. Or if you're, influenced by the social status of the painter.
So you're saying that there's some sort of technique that's associated with all of Jackson Pollock's works?
Yes, apparently. Like I'm not an expert on Pollock or anything like that, but from what I know, or from what I've learned or read or heard about these things. My mom is an art teacher, and we have had many discussions about these things. She loves this kind of stuff, but yes, that there is a bit of a method to his madness. Like it wasn't just him, randomly. But even if it was him, just sort of randomly splattering the paint, he might have specific strokes or patterns that are ingrained within his being, within his body, the way that he moves or whatever, that can have an impact on the end product that causes it to elicit those feelings or emotions or responses within people when they see his artwork.
That makes sense. I actually mad like art, and I actually mad like abstract art, but I also do think that there's a lot of bullshit in that world as well.
Big
And
time.
when you see some of the prices of these pieces, you're like, yo, what the fuck is going on? It's unreal how much people spend on art. Like, what's more expensive than art? I don't think there's anything out there that's more expensive than art. Maybe like jewelry pieces, but I don't even think so. I think art might be the most expensive fucking thing.
Like per gram or probably. But it makes you go, what the fuck, until you realize how the art market actually works and how you can use these things for tax benefits and a whole bunch of other stuff. So it makes perfect sense when you see it through that lens. But if you don't know about that and you don't see it through that lens, then yes, it seems completely crazy that this stuff is worth that much. Okay, so our art tangent is, we're wrapping that up.
Over? Yeah, guy. Wikipedia guy. We're good.
Okay, so back to abstraction. Where did we lose you on the Wikipedia abstraction?
What was the first word?
Abstraction is a conceptual process wherein general rules and concepts are derived from the usage and classification of specific examples, literal, real, or concrete signifiers, first principles, or other methods. An abstraction is the outcome of this process, a concept that acts as a common noun for all subordinate concepts and connects any related concepts as a group, field, or category.
All right.
So one second. So say you have like all these different things, but they all share something in common, right? Then you can extract that thing, and it can be a higher level concept. It can be an abstraction. You can take that thing out and say that all of these things below are a ball, right? They all have the same ball attributes. You can have a football, soccer ball, golf ball, tennis ball, all of these different balls. And then what you can do is you can go, oh, well, what do they all have in common, or what do they all share? Oh, it's the balliness. All right. And then that's that concept that you can extract. That's an abstraction.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm understanding that. All right.
So I've got another example that doesn't use balls. It's that the map one. And I think this is very important to understand because as humans, we are like abstraction machines in a sense. So there's another example. We can do a vehicle, right? So imagine you're trying to explain the concept of a vehicle to someone. At the most basic level, you could get bogged down in the specifics, talking about the number of wheels on a car, the type of engine in a boat, or the wingspan of an aeroplane. But if you use abstraction, you can skip all those details and say, a vehicle is anything that gets you from point A to point B. This is a high-level abstraction because it captures the core function of a vehicle without getting into the weeds of how each one operates or looks. Yeah?
Yeah. That's
so
dope. Yeah.
We can then go on and say, in different fields, abstraction might look different, right? So in computer science, it's about creating simple interfaces that hide complex code, like pressing a button to save a file without knowing how the computer writes data to the hard drive.
Right.
Yep. So a button that says save is an abstraction.
Right.
Okay. In engineering, it might involve looking at systems in terms of inputs and outputs without needing to understand every single component inside. Okay. In chemistry, it can mean understanding the reaction between two substances in terms of reactants and products, not necessarily the quantum mechanics at play. If you got like a Pyrex jug, you got some baking soda, you got a bit of water, you got a bit of cocaine.
Oh, you're making crack.
No, I've never done that. I was just trying to make a reference I thought you might share through. Hey?
I think it sounds like you're teaching our listeners how to make crack cocaine, bro.
I would never do that. And I don't know. I don't know the specifics of any of those things. Most certainly, I've just heard it on the radio in popular songs. A lot of people rap about that stuff. That was the only reference I have. I don't know how to
It's mad funny how these songs don't get like canceled. They get radio time. But if you talk about this shit like online, or if you make a post about it, like you can get canceled for that kind of shit. But if you rap about it in a song, for some reason, it's all right. It's mad funny.
Yep, crazy as. So just to finish that point on abstraction allows us to build upon ideas without getting overwhelmed by details, creating a ladder of complexity that we can climb each rung at a time. Okay? Does that kind of make sense?
Gotcha. Yeah, it does. Rubes, was it you that told me that story about, I can't remember how it goes exactly. I'm going to butcher it, but basically it had to do with blind people trying to explain what an elephant is, right? So you would have a blind person touching one part of the elephant, like let's say they're touching the ear, and then they would be explaining to somebody, oh, well, elephant, this is how it feels. This is what like I felt in my hand. And then someone else would be touching the trunk. And then their perspective of what an elephant is based on where they're touching an elephant. Other person will be touching the tail. Other person will be touching the stomach. So you would have like 4 or 5 people sort of observing this elephant through their hands, but in different places around the elephant. So they would have a complete different concept of what an elephant is, right? Did you tell me a story similar to this before?
But it's not blind. It was blindfolded people.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think.
Yeah. And do you remember what the message was at the end of that story?
Well, yeah, like if you're too close, it's too hard to tell what something is. Sometimes you need to step back. You need to be able to absorb it in totality as opposed to just sampling it locally, so to speak.
Right. What if the like 5 blindfolded people then came together to discuss? Would that give you a more zoomed out version of what they were observing?
What's going to give you more data points for sure? Yes. So if they can communicate about their individual experience and not get into a fight about I'm right, you're wrong, that kind of stuff, well then yes, they definitely can start to paint a higher resolution image of what an elephant might be. But yeah, I think the meaning of that is like if you're too close to something, you can't really tell all that it is.
Yeah. So what does this have to do with abstraction? Why did I fucking bring this up?
I don't know. Why did you bring this up?
I don't know. I for some reason I thought it had to do something with abstraction, and then as I began to say it, I realized
I think it's more about zooming in and zooming out. I think that was the context that we were discussing. So it's like, it's hard to tell what an elephant is if you're really close to it, and all you can do is feel a part of its leg or something. You might need to zoom out to be able to sort of to get the whole picture, to see how, to have a better understand or have a better idea of what it is.
Well, that's sort of abstract right there, guys. Zooming out.
Well, yeah, that's what an abstraction is. It's saying don't get caught up in the details, right?
Yeah.
Like don't get caught up in the complexity because there's all these different things that are going on. Find a simple way to think about this that distills the essence of what you're trying to do, right? So the same thing is with a vehicle, right? You could, it can be like a vehicle is a car. Cars have got wheels and engines, and a vehicle is also a boat. But it goes on water, and it has an engine as well, and da 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 da, and then an airplane. All of those things can be considered vehicles. Or I could just say a vehicle is a thing that gets you from point A to point B, and that's like, oh, okay, I can sort of grasp the concept of a vehicle. It's something that you can utilize to get from somewhere to somewhere else.
All right, guys. So far, so good, guy. Here we go.
Whoa, this is an intro into Idiot Squared. This is how our conversations go. No,
well, dude, somehow we got through some Wolfram model shit. I don't even know how I did that. So I feel like this should be a cakewalk for me at this point. But
I think it should be a cakewalk for you, because the Reuliad is just an abstraction as well, sir. But anyway, let's go into, you have some stuff on abstraction. You have a test that we can do. Is that right?
guys, so before the pod, I was thinking like, okay, what is abstraction? And I went down this rabbit hole of abstract thinking. And then I came across abstract reasoning, and it reminded me of a test. I mentioned this in the last podcast we did, but it reminded me of this test that you have to do on the BCAT. So the BCAT is an exam, an entry-level exam. Well, it's an exam that you have to do well on in order to apply to medical schools in Britain, right? So it's not the only thing you have to do, but it's one of the many things that you have to complete. And part of this BCAT exam is abstract reasoning. And I don't have an example of a BCAT test, but it is an example of what an abstraction reasoning test is. And I'll just share my screen. And it's cool because, you know what, I won't even try and explain it. We'll just like show it, or I'll just read this first part here. Can you see my screen, by the way?
I can now see your screen. I'm going to put it in the top.
Yeah, you can see it?
Yes, I'm just trying to get it above you.
Oh.
But you're on top, so it's okay. There we go.
Yeah, I like being on top. Sorry. Actually, I don't know why I said that's the second time I said I like being on top, but I actually prefer being on the bottom.
That's just to clarify. That is with women, correct, sir? That is you're not a power bottom in the homosexual sense. You are a heterosexual male.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah. I'd be killing it out there if I was gay, because for some reason gay guys just fucking love me, and I've always had issues with women. So a part of me always kind of wished I was homosexual, but unfortunately I'm not. I'm a straight male, and yeah. But anyways,
yeah.
What is abstract reasoning? Abstract reasoning tests measure your ability to identify connections among sequences of shapes and patterns. These tests offer insights into your strategic thinking, lateral thinking, and fluid intelligence, with the objective of finding the accuracy and speed in which you can identify and interpret the relationship between a collection of shapes and patterns. So, sounds pretty cool, right? And here's sort of an example.
100%.
Can you see that? This one's easy, right? I think we could easily choose the right. So basically, we have to choose the correct pattern that would go into this empty box here to sort of complete this pattern, right? Yeah, exactly. However, this is a very, very easy example.
Yeah.
Or what?
Yeah, it is. No, that's right. Far right middle.
Yes, this one. Yeah, you can see it because if you connect this corner here with here, it shows like a little bit of white at the corner, like a little bit of white space, and then here, this corner, you can see like it's completing the black line, which is this part
that is
here.
the one.
Yeah. Okay, but this is a very, very simple example. If the BCAT was this, I think people would absolutely destroy it, and they wouldn't be able to discern between someone who's really good at abstract reasoning versus someone who isn't, right? So it gets a lot more complicated than this very simple example, like I was saying. Okay, here is another example. I didn't take a look at this one though before. So same thing, we'd have to guess which of these goes here. Yeah, this one's definitely more complicated. All right, so just by looking at these examples at the bottom in relation to the pattern, or sometimes it might not necessarily be an obvious pattern to us. For example, it could be something with the shades, we have white, gray, and black filled in circles. It could be something with that. It could be something with the arrows. It could be something with the way the arrows are pointing. It could be all three of those things. Could be which way is the arrow pointing, plus is it black, gray, or white? And this example is a much better one. Second right, top
second
column,
row, top column. Yep, that one. There's one white, one gray, one black.
Top row. Second column, top row. Yeah, so this one here, right?
Yep.
Okay. And did you get that on your own, or did you get that from reading the answer?
Where's the answer?
It's right underneath. The correct answer is the image in the second column of the top row.
No, I was just thinking through. The pattern that I saw was that there is one of each in every, like in the following two cells, there is one gray, one black, one white.
Yeah. Yeah. Perfect. Perfect. Yeah. That's so that is good abstract reasoning. There you go. Yeah. Nice guy.
And I'm not going to lie to you. It was the first gray one that I saw. And that's what I thought.
Yeah, because it could be this one too over here, right?
But I may also have subconsciously read the answer.
Okay. But we're on the right track though. Like this is how you have to think of it. Like what you did is perfect. Did you read the answer, Bruce?
No, I don't. Well, maybe subconsciously. I didn't consciously read the answer. I looked at that and then I looked down and I was like, it'd be the second one.
Okay, because but it was like 3.
The first thing I saw.
So based on your abstract reasoning, there are 3 possible answers, right? There's this one, which you mentioned, which is the right answer. The bottom left one here, and then this one over here as well. So we would have to, at that point, I guess, look at the way the arrows are pointing.
So they're what are they doing? Like a
going to the
quarter
left.
of a rotation. Third of a rotation.
Quarter rotation.
Like
but then this
third
one
of a
over
rotation.
Here.
Yeah. Each time they're doing a third of a rotation. Oh, yeah, that's what it looks like. A third of a rotation.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. Oh, you're good at this, guy. You're good at this. All right.
Well, I hope so.
So there you go. Okay. So let's do the test. I think you'll be pretty good at this. And it's strange, by the way. Sorry?
There you go.
So with these tests, it's not something you can necessarily study for per se, but just literally practicing the test over and over and over and doing different examples, after a while, you sort of begin to get better at it. Like you can actually track your progression in these abstract reasoning tests. So it's not just like there is a technique to it, but you begin to sort of notice it from doing it over and over and over again. And when I was preparing for the BCAT, that's sort of what I did. I just kept doing them over and over and over and over again. And I actually scored decent on the BCAT, not good enough to get into any medical schools, but I was getting better at doing it. So there is something there. Yeah. But anyways.
Definitely. Practice.
Yeah. All right. So are you ready? We have 70 seconds to answer each question.
Holy shit.
I think so. Each question will have 12 possible answers. There's 10 questions, and we will have 70 seconds to answer each one. All right. So let's do this together. I'll see if we can flush it up. Here we go. All right. Choose which one of the options best fits the missing symbol. All right. Okay, so 3, 2, and 4. So 3 plus 2 is 5, plus 4 is 9. Here we have 4 plus 4, that was 12.
I'm going second column far right.
Second column.
Far right.
This one here? Second
Next one down. Sorry, second row,
right, second
far
column.
right. No,
second row, far right. This one? And why'd you choose that one?
I just sort of inverted the bottom one.
Oh, okay.
But what were you thinking?
God, I didn't even have an answer. Okay, let's try this one. All right, so here we have. Okay. You got to be like, you can't try and be like super logical sometimes either, right? You got to kind of sometimes try and just not be logical and see a pattern.
All right. 35 seconds. Okay, that's interesting.
I think it's this one here. What do you got?
Yeah, let's go with that.
Did you think of a
I know
different
much
answer?
more than that. No.
Okay. All right, let's try this one. What the fuck? Okay. All right, so when there's an X. See how, like, it just makes like your brain sort of melt, especially with the time limit. You kind of like really try and make decisions quickly.
No.
Do you have an answer?
Not just yet.
Okay, we have 8 seconds.
I'm going to say top row, second column.
This one.
Yeah.
All right, nice. All right, here we go, guy. Here we go. I think it's one with a filled in circle in the middle. I think it's between this one and this one and this one here. Or there's 4 options. Fuck. Okay. I think it might be. Oh, but there's a line through some of them as well.
So I think
God damn.
that's empty.
I think it's this one. What do you think? 8 seconds.
You think it's that one?
Yeah. Which one did you go with?
Yeah, I think let's go with that.
All right. All right. Kind of number 6.
AL.
Yeah, this one is. Okay, so we got touching 2 circles here, touching 3, then 3, then 3 at the bottom row, touching 4, touching 4, touching 4. So I think it might be a line that's touching 2 circles. So that we have these 4 options here. They're touching 2 circles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so I think it's, and you can see like the numbers go higher as we go. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So probably bottom right.
Yeah, bottom right. Bottom right. Okay, here we go. See, sometimes it's a mistake images? To just. What's that?
Is it just like mirror images?
Yeah, it looks like it, eh? I think sometimes it's a mistake to try and always associate these things with the numbers as well. I fall into that habit sometimes, like numbers. I like numbers. I think that's what I.
So I think this one's got to be a cross, like a sideways one.
Okay. Which one?
And it's got to be a mirror image. It could be, it could be that. Could be the 3 triangles.
Sorry, I ran out of time.
Did you select one?
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, the first one you mentioned I selected. Okay, arrow, box, and the open portion is ops to the room. Yeah. Okay. So it looks like wherever the arrow points is the open portion of the box.
Yeah.
All right. Which many of these options have. All right. So now we just got to figure out. So I think it might be this one. What do you got?
Yeah, I'm thinking, yes, that one.
Okay. All right. Two more, guy. Two more.
I reckon it has to have 4 black things. There's a pattern 3, 4, 3, 4, 3, 4, 3, 4, 3. In terms of the color.
Nice. Yeah. Okay.
There's triangle, square, square, star, square, circle, circle. Square?
Would it be squares again?
Yeah, I think squares.
Okay, so we got
be
this
4.
one with 4. Okay. Go with this
one?
Go
there. Yep.
All right. Last one, guy. First one, last one, first one, last one, last one.
Well, they've all got 3 circles. They've all got a triangle.
Like first one filled, last one filled, first one filled. First, last, first. And then at the bottom here, first, last, first. So it could be first, last. No, this last first, so it could be a first one.
Yep.
All right, which one are we gonna go with? Because even the options all have 3 circles.
Yeah, I've got 7 seconds, guy.
This one?
Go for it.
All right, so test results.
We got 3 out of 10.
We scored in the 38th percentile. That means that
is terrible.
With the 4,929 times this test has been taken before by a mixed group of people, your score is higher than 38% of these scores.
We suck at that abstract pattern recognition.
All right, so we only got 3 out of 10. And we pretty much used the entire time for all of them.
Yeah.
Speed, 90%. Accuracy, 33. Fuck, so we got the first one.
I want to see. We got the first one right. That was good.
All right. Can I just go through this? No. Okay. And that's the second one. All right. Yeah, see, I was thinking it was one with boxes on this side. That was my abstract reasoning. But question number 3. Oh, fuck. It's hard to say if we were close or not.
Yeah, so at the end it says, rule 1, from the left to right, the cross square moves 2 places counterclockwise each time. This pattern continues onto the next row. From the left to the right, the shading in the central rectangle alternates between the left and right-hand side. The pattern continues onto the next row. I saw that pattern, that the left and right. I didn't see the from left to right, the cross square moves 2 places counterclockwise each time. I didn't pick that up.
It's difficult to do in the allotted time. I don't even remember doing this one.
No, I don't.
We got this one right?
Maybe you accidentally clicked past it.
But we got it right. Do you remember doing this one?
No, we didn't get it right.
No?
I don't think there was a score on it.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Oh, I must have clicked past it. Fuck.
That's all good. Yeah, guy.
All right, we got that one right.
You got that one right. We got that one right.
Got that one right. Oh, you said that one, didn't you? Didn't
The
you
triangles.
say? Weren't you debating between this one?
Yeah. I wasn't sure.
You were right in the cross one. So from left to right, the dotted line alternates between horizontal and vertical. This
I picked
pattern
that
continues
up.
onto the next row. The symbols and shading are always symmetrical about the dotted line. Oh.
Yeah, so we fucked up with the they're not we picked it asymmetrical. We fucked up on that top one. That's my bad.
All good, guy. What number was that? Was that 7?
I think so. Okay,
Okay.
from left to right, the square with the missing edge moves one place counterclockwise around the box each time. This pattern continues onto the next row. The side of the square with the missing edge is indicated by the arrow in the center of each box. Yeah, we got that right, but why did we... Oh, moving edge one place counterclockwise around the box each time. So bang, bang, and then we needed to be... Bang?
Counterclockwise.
Oh, the box moves counterclockwise. Yeah, I get it.
Oh, yeah.
It's the box.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Okay, so each box contains 10 shapes. From left to right, the total number of shaded shapes in each box alternates between 3 and 4, which you said. This pattern continues on to the next row.
Yeah, but we fucked up because we picked squares and there's only 9 in there. I didn't pick up the fact that there was 10 in each one. I fucked up on that one too.
All right, this one anyways, from top to bottom, each shape moves one place to the right each time. This pattern continues onto the next column. From left to right, the shaded shape alternates between the left and right-hand shape. This pattern continues onto the next row.
Okay. So we did okay considering, right? Like, I've never done one of these tests before for this kind of thing, but I can definitely understand. So just by looking at those rules, there was 2 rules for each thing. My default was to find a thing, okay? Whereas now I know I'm trying to find 2 commonalities. And then just from looking at those answers to the questions, the ones that we got right, the ones that we got wrong, I can now start to see a general pattern. So I can use those abstractions that I've learned just from that test to apply to the next time I would do that. So now I would be looking for 2 rules when I do that test again, as opposed to just one was my default.
Yeah, the same. I was doing the same mistake. But once you read the explanations, I think if we were to do it again, we would do a lot better. Like if we did a different one.
The more you do it, the better you get. That's the beauty of practice. What you're doing is becoming more familiar with the way that the questions are being posed and potential solutions to the questions. So that was fun. That was interesting. That illuminated the idiocy of us, our idiotness. There we
Idiocracy.
go. Yeah, Idiocracy. I feel like that's a movie, isn't it? Anyway,
yeah, it does sound like
we'll
a movie.
get back onto track here with abstraction. So, did you have some other things on abstraction that you had found and wanted to discuss, or that you found interesting?
Let me double check. I think that was it. But that was it.
I have a little excerpt about abstraction and why it's such a useful thing. So abstraction is a powerful tool in problem solving and decision making because it allows us to focus. What am I trying to do? It allows us to focus on the core issues without getting distracted by irrelevant details. Okay, so we in that test were able to focus on some things, right? But we were a bit too abstract, so to speak. Like we only focused on one thing, whereas we should have focused on 2 different things. That would have helped us in our reasoning on that. So simplification. Abstraction can simplify complex problems by distilling systems or issues down to their essential parts. We can manage and manipulate them more easily. This makes the problem more approachable and easier to understand. Pattern recognition. Pattern recognition. It helps in identifying patterns and general principles that are common to various problems. Once you recognize these patterns, you can apply solutions that have worked in the past to new problems, saving time and effort. So as an example with what we just did, like the fact that we've gone through that now, we've been exposed to the way that they sort of formulate the things, that the fact that they use 2 rules to sort of be able to go through that. We can learn from that, and our pattern recognition will now improve because of that. So it's one of those things, if you haven't been exposed to it, it can be kind of hard, but the more you do it, the more you get exposed to it, the more of those patterns you start to see. Focus on relevance, right? So abstraction helps in filtering out the noise in decision-making. It's important to concentrate on factors that truly influence the outcome. Abstraction helps by stripping away the minutiae that don't affect the decision. Okay? Communication, it aids in communicating complex ideas more effectively. When making decisions as a team, abstraction allows members to discuss concepts at a level where everyone can contribute, even if they're not experts in the field. That's why I love using abstractions for lots of different things. Encouraging broad thinking. Abstraction encourages looking at the problem from different angles or levels of detail. This broad perspective can lead to more innovative solutions because it invites you to consider a wide range of possibilities. Modularity. By abstracting, you can break down large problems or a large problem into a smaller, more manageable component or components. This modularity allows you to tackle one part of the problem at a time and assemble the solutions in a coherent whole. And then we have transferability. Solutions to abstract problems can often be transferred to other problems. This is because abstraction focuses on the essence of an issue, which can be common across different domains. But essentially, it streamlines the thought process. It enables us to think clearer, have more efficient or better communication, and come up with more effective solutions to things at times, because it can really, helps with that clarity, helps with clearing things up. But yeah, that was fun. I like doing that test. It's nice to be slapped in the face with how dumb you are.
100%. And by the way, I'll put a link in the description if anyone wants to go ahead and, I don't know if it's the same test. If it's the same one, then I guess it doesn't really matter. If you go and try it.
If it's the same test, then your score it doesn't count. Okay.
Yeah.
No, it's all good. But that was fun. So are we sort of grasping that concept of abstraction? I like the map analogy.
Yeah. Can you go through the map analogy one more time? Actually,
yeah. So essentially, I'm just gonna freestyle this one, but essentially, if you think about what a map is, right? So you can have many different kinds of maps as well. So one useful way to think, or one way I've thought about this is with subway maps. For rail systems. So what does this, the subway map sort of shows you? Not typically they're they're colored. I want to get one up. Just give me 1 second.
By the way, are you able to read a map without turning it? Like sometimes I feel like if I'm looking at a map and I'm trying to get somewhere, I would have to physically turn the map in order to have it pointing the same way which I'm looking at. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. That definitely helps. But no, I can in my mind, I can do that rotation, or I can put myself in that position without having to physically rotate the map every time. But that definitely does help. So let's have a look.
Do you remember back in the day when you had to print off directions if you wanted to go somewhere? I used to use MapQuest back in the day, and I would print off the directions, and in the directions it would have the kilometers towards between turns and shit. So I would actually use my what's it called, the
odometer?
Odometer, so I could be on pace with the map, or just so I could track my kilometers, knowing exactly when the next turn was coming. And that's how That's how we would get places, bro, before we
Correct.
had GPS. Or you'd have to pull over and ask.
Yeah.
Find someone and be like, yo, I'm trying to get here. How can I get here? Or like even just using a map. But I found using MapQuest, the directions with the odometer, was much more effective than just trying to look at a map, me personally.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I would typically try to memorize or remember it instead of printing it off all the time. Yeah, like use it as a bit of a memory thing. But yes, there were times when it was way too hairy, like there was just way too much, way too many turns, et cetera, et cetera. That yeah, you'd have to print it off and like you have your sheets of paper stacked in order, numbered, so that you made sure that they didn't get messed up. Okay, so I have a little one. I'm going to share my screen.
There was a story I heard recently about somebody suing Google Maps because it told Buddy to make a turn onto this like bridge that was destroyed years ago.
Oh, wow.
And his car went off the bridge because it was like dark, it was raining and shit, so he couldn't see very well. And he fell 20 feet into the water and died on impact. And I guess his family is suing Google Maps because they're saying that they knew about it, but they didn't update the system like they're supposed to. They kind of, just were a little bit irresponsible in that way. So I don't know if they won the case, but they had a good case against Google Maps.
So that's an important caveat: is the map is never the territory. Okay, the key thing to understand is the map is never the territory, but maps are useful because they reduce complexity. So looking at this map, you can see my screen.
Yeah.
Some people might look at that and be like, oh, it's very complex. Well, it's really not. And that's essentially what this map is doing, is it's taking away the vast majority of information that is actually present around Manhattan. And it is just providing with the rail lines, right? And so it's showing where the stops are. It's showing the different lines that there are. So if you get on one line, you can get to certain places. You might have to go to a central hub where you could change trains to get onto a different line and go to those. The lines are color-coded, right? So a map restricts the amount of information that it shows you. It doesn't show you everything. It shows you the relevant or important information based off what you're trying to do. So here is a subway map. And this is important for people who want to travel on the subway. And it just shows you the necessary information, the least amount of information you need to navigate the railway system, right? And then you can get different kinds of maps, right, which have a much higher resolution, include more details, but they become hard to read because there's so much on it. So this is just showing us the rail system, right, in America. Zoom in. Keep zooming in. And a lot of information is being left out, so they've got some street names and things like that. So you can, navigate yourself to where the stations are and things like that. But outside of that, there's no buildings here, is there? Right? There's all this other information that's present in this landscape in real life, but is not on this map because it is not necessary to it. Right? So I think that is such a good way to understand an abstraction. It's about extracting just the key things that you actually care about and forgetting the rest, so to speak. And it's not that the rest is not important or anything, but it might not be as important for your use case. And so if it's not important for your use case, then why have to deal with it? I think that's a really key thing to think about with abstraction. That kind of makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, this looks like a beautiful subway system. Do you guys have good subway systems in Australia?
Yeah, I actually find that our subway systems, the maps are kind of a little bit cooler. I'll try and get one up. Hold on. I'll just stop this screen share for a second.
Because I would say public transportation in Toronto and in Canada in general is not very good. But it's also very difficult to set up like a good public transportation system because cities in Canada are generally far away from each other. So intercity traveling is not very good. And that's basically why, because cities are very far apart. But for some reason, intercity transportation, like Toronto, or sorry, not intercity, within city. intercities between cities. Yeah. And then in
Yes.
city. I don't know.
Inner
But
city.
you know what I mean?
Intracity.
Yeah. So like the public transportation in Toronto is not very good. I believe there's 2 subway lines, and like the 2 subway lines on their own, they're good, but they don't get you all over Toronto. Like that Manhattan one looks like legit as fuck, but the one in Toronto, you have to usually take, one subway, then connect to a bus, then another bus. So it's not very good. Like Toronto could for sure have a lot more subway lines, but for some reason it just doesn't. Oh wow, where is this one?
So this is the Sydney Rail Network.
Sydney.
Now, notice how, so this map appears a lot easier to understand, right? Does this seem a lot simpler to you than the New York one?
Yeah, 100%.
So
there's less information.
Yes, and that's because all that they've actually done is put the lines on. Now, this isn't exactly accurate, right? So like it's not just a straight line, okay, here. Or these aren't like perfectly, straight lines, so to speak. Yeah. So they've abstracted this one level higher, and they're just showing you the general trend. So like Marylands to Guildford to Yennora to Fairfield to Canley Vale to Cabramatta, right? They're showing you the flow of things. So you know the stations. But this map is omitting a lot of finer details. It's not showing you like the intricacies. It's not showing you any of the buildings. It's not showing you any of the parks. It's not showing you anything other than the landmass and the water, right? But this is also easier to understand. It's easier to understand because there's actually less information there, or less irrelevant information. This is really distilled down to the essence of what this is. And all you really need to know is, where do you want to go? What line is that on? And where are you now? And then you can essentially achieve what you want. You know the flow of stations because they're all ordered, right? They're ordered in the order that you visit them if you start from one place and are going somewhere else. But yeah, to me, this is very easy to understand because they've taken away all of the unnecessary things. They're just communicating the necessary information. So I think that's a fantastic example of an abstraction.
You know where public transportation is amazing? Is Europe. Europe's insane. Maybe not every country, but a lot of like the bigger countries have amazing, amazing public transportation. Like Germany, Spain, France. I remember those countries have incredible everything, like subways, trains, buses.
Do you think it's because of their size, like the size of the countries and the interconnectedness?
Yeah, exactly. That's what helps. That's why in Canada it's poor in comparison.
Because Canada is quite big.
Exactly. Yeah. So
and also Toronto is quite hard because it has huge like snowfall, winter. Like lots of Canada, like there's. See, I didn't think the public transport was really bad in Toronto. No, I didn't think it was terrible. Like I like there's a whole underground system that you can walk through in Toronto.
Yeah, that's true.
Although that's not like a bus or anything like that. But yeah, I tell you what I did experience when I was there is it is quite hard to get from like the out, like, like the burbs or just like out of Toronto into Toronto. Like I had to catch a Greyhound bus in.
Yeah.
And I thought I was like, that's a bit strange. Like, like in Sydney, you just catch a train. That kind of like was quite easy to do that. But yeah, it was a bit more of an effort to get the Greyhound bus in. And I'm not gonna lie, like there are some sketchy people to catch Greyhound buses. And when you get off the Greyhound bus in Toronto, like there are some sketchy characters around that bus station. Like it's hilarious. You get off there, people are instantly trying to get you. Like sob stories, borrow some money, da 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 da. But yeah, now that I think about it, yeah, it definitely isn't as good as it could be, or it isn't the same level or quality as other places that I visited. But maybe they're just a bit behind on that. I don't know.
I think it's what you were saying because of And what I was saying before, it's a very large country, so it's difficult to have, a good transportation system without making it super, super expensive because you have to travel very long distances. And you mentioned something funny because it's true about Canadians. Like, you can meet a Canadian and like on the bus, and in 2 seconds, they'll start telling you all of their life problems, like deep personal issues that they're having with their spouse or with their family or with their friends, and they'll tell you everything within minutes of meeting them. Canadians are really good at that. Yeah.
100%. Oh,
yeah.
Yeah. I'm not going to butcher the Canadian accent, but yes, that was my experience when I got off the Greyhound bus in Toronto.
Yeah. Good old Canadians.
This is hilarious. But
yeah,
he's also very similar.
Sharon.
Yeah. It's very similar to Central Station in Sydney as well. Like, when you get off in Central, there are some characters around Central Station. It's quite funny.
So I did have something else. When you asked me before, I forgot.
Surprise.
Yeah. Surprise, guy. So there was this video I was watching, and Buddy was talking about strategies with memorizing or improving your memory with abstract ideas or abstract thoughts, I think. And basically what he was saying is that you have to sort of construct this space in your head, and you have to associate things with each letter of the alphabet. And the example he used was with the letter I. He thinks about his friend Ian, and being inside Ian's house. So when he associates words that begin with I, he associates them with a specific place inside of Ian's house. So it could be in Ian's kitchen, right? And then he will imagine a word that he's trying to remember, and he will associate that word with a picture. And I believe he used a balloon, and he was using like a hand waving over the balloon or something of that sort. But basically he creates this sort of abstract idea that's associated with the word, and he places that, like the hand waving across the balloon, inside the kitchen of Ian's house. And that's how he's able to remember this abstract thought or this idea or this word. So he's sort of creating this world. And I quickly mentioned that to you just right before we started the pod. And you were saying that that's how people are able to like mass memorize large like things or large ideas by sort of creating these spaces inside their heads.
Yeah.
Right?
So master memorizers or people that compete in memory challenges or competitions or, just have ridiculous memories. They leverage like the visual system or our spatial understanding of things. Yeah. Our ability to visualize things spatially to do this. So like you can show them a deck of cards, give them 10 seconds or, whatever, and they can memorize the sequence of the cards. And they do this by like that same thing. Like they'll create a magical, or they'll go to some place and they'll have like a bunch of rooms in a house, and they'll put each of the cards in each of the rooms or something along those lines. But they're leveraging their sort of the space. I can't remember. I want to say spatial reasoning ability or their visual apparatus, right? Like we live in this world, and we have to navigate through this 3-dimensional space. So we've evolved to have like a decent amount of the brain or computations dedicated to that, and so they leverage that. And again tie it to things that they know, but also novelty. So if you really want to remember something, increase the novelty of it. Like assign it to something that's very novel to you. That's something that stands out. Like a giant pink elephant. Like if you're trying to remember something that's really hard for you to remember, associate it with the craziest, most outlandish sort of thing that you can, and then you've got a good probability or good chance of remembering that in the future because it will stand out. But it's interesting what you mentioned about that guy, because he's also tying it to people and places that he's very familiar with. So there's already a good amount of that within his neural network or within his brain, and so he's sort of tacking things onto that because it's already so predominant in his mind.
Yeah, so there's like another piece to this, right? If you're going to apply it to yourself, I think you have to choose things that you remember relatively well. So for him, Ian's house is somewhere very familiar. So you would have to choose somewhere that's really familiar to you. And if you try and choose things that are not as familiar, the technique won't be as effective is what is what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So David Blaine was on the Joe Rogan podcast recently. Did you see that?
No. I got a confession to make. I won't sing it, but I have not consistently watched Joe Rogan since he moved to Spotify. I think I probably watched like 4 or 5 podcasts of his since he's moved to Spotify. And I used to enjoy putting on a Joe Rogan every now and then and having a listen. Like I like it. I like his interviews and things, like I do. But yeah, since moving to Spotify, I don't.
I'm the same guy. I'll see clips here and there, but like watching like a full episode, I might actually go watch the full David Blaine episode because the clips I saw were pretty interesting. But
pivot to your David Blaine.
So he has this system which he implements onto the back of playing cards, right? So you know how you have like the face, like the 5 of hearts, let's say, right? On the back of the card, there's always like this abstract pattern. Maybe not so abstract at times, but you know what I mean? On playing cards, how they on the back of there's like certain patterns. So he didn't give it away his secret, but he manipulates it in some way which is imperceivable to anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
He creates this sort of system on the back of the card, and he uses, you know, when you look at something but you kind of look through it to make it blurry.
Yeah.
One of the hints was, because Joe Rogan sort of like pulled it out of him, is that's one of the techniques that he uses in order to see some sort of pattern or some sort of system, and he implements it on the back of the card to know what the face of the card is. So just by looking at the back of the card, he can tell you what card you have in your hand.
Yeah.
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
And it's imperceivable to like other magicians.
Yeah. Because he's found an abstraction. He's found a way of minimizing all that other information that's there, all the distractive stuff, to find the signal on that other side. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. So you could just imagine how many card cheats, or imagine doing that in like, I don't know, like a poker tournament with your buddies. You use your own deck, so you know what everyone has at all times. Or you would know what card is being flipped on the river. You'd be like, that'd be insane. I wonder how many people implement that system when they're playing poker, or when they're just doing like street magic, or just cheating people with like different like card games. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think that there would be definitely people doing that. But I don't know if it'd be as common as we think. But yeah, I'm sure that there are definitely people that would do that, like wherever you can get an edge, for sure.
Well, you for sure can't trust anyone doing shit on the street. No, like, you know, those guys that,
you for sure can't actually trust anyone, really.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
but it was just funny to see him, because he was like slowly like realizing like, fuck, like I'm like giving away a secret that so many people utilize to cheat others with. And Rogan's like, yo, fuck them. They're cheaters. Who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
Like they're legit. They're making money being greasy. So fuck them. Who cares if they're mad?
And there's still plenty of suckers in the world that are going to fall for it. Like, and like we said, so since Rogan's moved to Spotify, way less people watch his podcast. So it's like, you know, way less people.
You think so? You think way less people do watch it?
I don't know. I haven't checked, but I know I don't, and I know you don't.
Yeah.
So that was me extrapolating.
And Justin doesn't
our
either.
Sample size of 2. So just quickly back to the abstraction thing. I just wanted to provide a couple of examples of where abstraction has been used to help innovation or the progress of technology, right? So apparently Tim Berners-Lee used abstraction, right? He abstracted the complex idea of global interconnectedness into a simple system of hypertext links, creating the World Wide Web. This abstraction allowed users to navigate the internet intuitively without needing to understand the underlying network infrastructure. Apparently, the Wright brothers, inspired by the abstract principle of birds gliding in the air, developed the first successful aeroplane. They abstracted the concept of lift and applied it to a machine that could carry humans. Apparently, theory of relativity, Albert Einstein used the abstract principle that the laws of physics are the same for all non-accelerating observers, and that led him to the groundbreaking new ways of understanding time, space, and gravity. One more. So computers, the concept of a programmable computer abstracted by Charles Babbage and later conceptualized as a Turing machine by Alan Turing is another example. They distilled the concept of computation into a series of logical steps that could be performed by a machine, which is the foundation of modern computing. So abstraction is very useful. And again, it because we are computationally bounded, right? We have a limited ability to do computations, and we have finite time. We don't persist for infinity. Okay, abstractions are really useful because things are really, really complicated. There's so much information everywhere. So much of what the brain and our attention is what not to pay attention to. It's finding out the right abstraction to pay attention to for usefulness, right? And a lot of that is not paying attention to certain information. That's like the key of the abstraction. And so you can see how powerful abstract thinking and using abstraction is. And a prime example is us just doing that test before. We got bombarded by the amount of different things going on with all of those, or with all the different patterns. And it resulted in us getting a very bad score because we didn't have we weren't looking for two simple sort of heuristics or rules with each of those things. We got overwhelmed by it, and that probably caused us to sort of lobotomize ourselves a little bit. We were overwhelmed by the amount of information instead of just finding that right level of abstraction to think about it.
Absolutely, right.
Can you think of any examples just in your own life where you've used abstraction now that we've sort of talked about it?
I don't know, maybe when trying to explain something to somebody else through analogies, or I don't know, right?
What about for you? You live in Colombia, right? So there's obviously a language barrier. When you're trying to explain a concept from English to a concept to somebody in Colombia or in Spanish?
Like when I'm trying to explain, what? Can you say it again?
Well, so say you're trying to explain a concept from Canada or from English or something like that to somebody in Colombia who may not be familiar with all of those things, but you because you live in Colombia, you've sort of seen, oh, it's similar to this kind of thing. And it allows you to communicate that without having to go through all the intricacies, like with the car example. You don't have to communicate that it has seats, leather and wheels and steering wheel and all that sort of stuff. But you can use, like you said, analogy.
Yeah, I feel like that's probably when I've used it the most, right? When I'm trying to explain, like, just like for example, something that we've been doing on the podcast, like we've talked about many complicated concepts. So if you haven't seen our other videos, go check them out. And sometimes I'll get into the conversation with about it with my wife, trying to explain to her what we discussed on the podcast and what I've learned. So yeah, but in terms of a Canadian or an English concept to a Spanish person, like I guess cultural things, the differences in cultures and behavior, because I noticed that there's a lot of differences in that for sure. Like there's so many similarities, but at the same time, there's a lot of differences. Just when meeting with people or like business meetings or the way things are handled, people express themselves a little bit differently here. So there are obviously there's many cultural differences. But if I'm using abstraction to explain, I don't know.
Or just use abstractions. So while you're pondering, I've got a couple of other ones I was just thinking about. So in nutrition, the concept of macros is an abstraction, right? So just distilling things down into protein, fat, and carbohydrates, and alcohol, right? And essentially being like the three main macros, four if you include alcohol. And then you can essentially build a meal plan, or you can build a decently effective nutritional strategy from that abstraction. Because you can say, okay, these are the you need to get a certain amount of protein, you need to get a certain amount of fat, you need to get a certain amount of carbohydrates. And if your goal is weight loss, as long as you're consuming such calories and you're a certain level of physical activity and you're getting good quality sleep, then you will achieve this sort of goal, right? But food and nutrition is vastly more complex than that. But that's a very useful abstraction that allows lots of people to be able to grasp that concept and utilize it. So within protein, right? So you got to get this much protein. Well, within protein, there's all the amino acids, right? You got tryptophan, valine, isoleucine, arginine. You got like all these different amino acids. There's 26 or 7. I'm blanking here. Anyway, there's a bunch.
I remember either.
There's a bunch of them. And, essentially you sum up all of those things and you say, they come under the banner of protein, right? Like that's how we get there. So it's a way of, again, simplifying, minimizing the complexity of it so that we can hold it in our head and we can think through it a little bit easier. What about you with like video editing or shots or stuff like that? Like, do you use abstraction there? Like, where do you sort of simplify stuff?
Man, like I'm realizing that I'm still sort of confused with what abstraction means. Yeah,
but this is good. This is what we want.
Yeah, a lot of the times, watching this podcast back, that's when like the learning, more of the learning happens. I wish it would happen more during the podcast sometimes, but it is what it is. So it's sort of like an ability to zoom out, essentially, thinking abstract, right? Not looking at the fine details, but looking at sort of like a zoomed out. So what I have to do is, not much editing on this is being done on this channel, but I have another channel with my wife where we present houses, and just like when I start to record a house, I'm already thinking of, okay, I'm going to place this shot like in this part of the video. I'm going to overlay the shot over here. I'm going to start with this one. So I have like all these shots that I have to organize, and like my wife is the one explaining the layout of the house. So I also have to organize like her ideas, and I have to be able to consider all of the shots and all the information that we have, and then organize it in a way where it's enjoyable to watch and it's organized, like the information is easy to understand and follow. And before, I had to watch things over and over and over again to sort of be able to organize it effectively. Whereas now that is already happening as I'm recording. Like when I'm behind the camera, in your mind. Yeah, I'm already creating what I'm going to do with this shot, where I'm going to place it. And when I sit down to edit, like even if I edit that video like a week later, I still remember what I was planning during that taping process. Whereas before I wasn't able to do that. But now it's just like, it's so I can edit a video much, much more efficiently and organize it in a way where it just have a much more effective presentation, basically.
So one of the key things that you just said is the abstraction that you're using is actually, you have key shots that you film because they're important, right? Just like with the railway map, they don't show every single detail. They show you the things that are important, like which station follows which station and what lines are those stations on, right? So you want to get certain shots to highlight certain things about the house or the property, whatever it is, but you don't film every single thing, do you?
No.
Right? So that's an abstraction in of itself. You're using an abstraction. You go, okay, people care about seeing this, 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 and this broadly, right? They don't need to see inside every cutlery drawer. They don't need to see underneath every cupboard. You know what I mean? Like you're performing, you're doing an abstraction there as well. You've learned over time what people care to see and what showcases a house in an efficient way, right? But you don't show more than that because it can be confusing. It can be too complex. It'd be too long. Who the hell's going to watch a 2.5 hour video of a walkthrough of a house? You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, I just wanted to point out that in and of itself is an abstraction.
Cool. I guess I am using abstraction.
So yeah, just to close it all up, right? Abstraction is a fundamental concept that allows us to manage complexity, okay, by reducing the information and details to focus on the higher level ideas or concepts. Okay, so it allows us to see that high level stuff. Like you said, zoom out. It's like looking at a map instead of the actual terrain. The map doesn't show every tree and rock, right? But it gives you the essential details to understand and navigate the landscape. And us as humans or as observers, all we can do is make maps. Okay, so in some sense, all we can do is make abstractions. And so, yeah, make more
Beautiful,
maps, motherfucker. But thank you very much for tuning in and listening to another episode. Hopefully that was useful or entertaining in some way, shape, or form. Feel free to roast us in the comments and or online on your favorite social platform about how badly we did in the abstraction test. 3 out of 10. But we did miss a question, so really it's only 3 out of 9, and I'm going to hold on to that, okay? But yeah, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. Polska, you got anything to close with?
No, we're good, guy.
All right.
Well done.
Peace out, everybody.
Right,
have a lovely rest of your day or start of your day. Love you, guy. Have a good night.
All right, later, bro. Peace.